Hello and welcome. My name is Rob, aka Lantern Noir, and this is Happy Hour, where we meet up on Tuesdays at 5 o'clock because the day is over. It's time to pull into the bar, see what the specials are, and have a chance to chill out and chat. And with me is my amazing co-host,
Graybeard to Graybeard's Tavern.
How are we doing this week, my friend?
Woo! Rough day today. Rough day at work. Good to be here at the happy hour. My blood pressure was up so much that I was like, I'm sweating. I'm so angry. I'm sweating, and then I spent the day in subarctic temperatures. So yeah, rough day. But I'm here and it's happy hour. Let's do it.
Well, I can't complain terribly because yesterday morning I'm talking to a coworker who's angry about a schedule we've set up for a special kind of learning activity. We've worked in social emotional lessons into our curriculum for the entire building, and there have been complaints that there aren't enough of these activities spread out around enough teachers. So by the end of the year, it will translate to a full 2 extra hours of prep time for some teachers compared to others. And that could be a contract issue. And so I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe we're having this conversation. I've got crap to do. I have a meeting with the principal in 15 minutes to go over my evaluations. Can we not be doing this now?
Right.
And then we hear on the PA, school is canceled due to a water main break in the vicinity. It's like, oh, okay then. Let's do this. Let's get out of here. And then we had today off because in our district we take election day off because we have all of the schools double as polling places. And so rather than having people coming in and voting and going out again and volunteers and all that hoopla with all the kiddies around, we just have the whole day off.
Right.
Which the union pats itself on the back to say, haha, we've got election day as a mandated day off, so all of our staff are free to vote.
Nice. Good motion on their part. Yeah, that was always the deer hunt opening day of deer season in my schools when I was growing up. Was always just a day off. They just took a snow day and went blam. That day nobody's going to be here anyway. I know. So
Michigan has fun little traditions, depending on where you are in the state.
Yep.
So I can't complain too much because I've had 2 days off. So I effectively got a 4-day weekend.
Oh, nice.
And tomorrow is a half day, but it's a half day, and then I have to work 8 hours for conferences.
Oh, blah.
And my big disappointment, we're doing conferences virtually again, which is nice. Zoom conferences are cool. The downside, I have to do it at work. I cannot do conferences from mission control.
Weird.
And it bums me out because I could be so much more productive and non-productive with my time between lessons at mission control than I will be on my little lappy-tappy in the classroom.
Yeah.
So, and I'm still debating if I'm taking the Yeti with me because I'm really tempted. I also have I got my green screen has new lighting. Yeah. And it's really tempting to take the Yeti and the lighting and set everything up studio style on my desk.
Yeah.
So I can turn around and go, well, fine. If I'm going to be here, I'm going to make it look cool.
Yeah. Ooh, I don't know. I wouldn't add the extra setup and tear down time.
It's 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm not taking the top lights. I'm just taking my new little like afterburn. I don't know what you want to call these things. My outriggers. The things that get the shadows out of these regions in the green screen because they're the hardest to keep lit because of my shadow. So, yes, everything. Yeah, we came here to talk politics and the fantasy world, and you're hearing all about how to properly set up a green screen. Which, by the way, kids, not as easy as they make it look. Oh my gosh, it's taken me like a year to get this thing working smoothly.
Been streaming for 6 years now.
Uh,
Nope, no green screen. That's all stuff. It's all
I
things I can grab.
Dave, welcome aboard. For those listening, that chime is a cheer from the amazing Dave DGD,
Woo!
also famous for being the sponsor of the premiere episode of The Convergence, which we aired last
Oh,
week. You
yeah.
can find it on YouTube, and you can check it out. It was a great time and a
Mm,
lot of fun. I also unfortunately have to write because Dave specifically said I want to sponsor the premiere. I'm like,
right.
all right, you got the premiere. But then Les, who's in Australia,
Mm,
also sponsored episode, and she wants a pond centric episode to be the one she sponsors. And the episode
okay.
started with like an hour of me and Pond role playing her
Yeah.
coming through the Convergence event.
Oh, okay. So you did, yeah, you are going with that spotlights and then the up.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
go in
yeah.
and do it again. It was a lot of fun, and I totally flaked on the name of the major NPC for that scene. So his name is Frederick, but he's going to have changed it when they
Mm,
meet him next.
got it.
There was, you see, there was a gentleman who also had that same name. It created quite a bit of confusion as to who or who had not possibly had ended up with a woman who may or may not have already given her wedding vows to another gentleman. I thought it best just for a general rebranding.
Well, and an apocalypse makes those kind of things a little more flexible. There's not a lot of paperwork to.
Well, thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's fun, and I take no credit for Harrison. Like many
Mm,
things that Gray and I have talked about on here about writing, um, good artists create, great artists steal.
Steel.
Exactly. And Harrison's one of my favorite, even though he's Confederate, he's one of my
Mm,
favorite characters in Gettysburg.
mm.
Um, but
Yeah, the talking of, it was funny because I've been setting up this campaign that's coming up, and in it, I put down I made an entire Discord channel for motivations for the campaign, and in that I've got all this stuff. And then it was funny because I'm trying to make this decision about the campaign, and in the end I'm like, yeah, okay, they stole this, one of the big D&D streamer guys, and I'm like, yeah, they stole the idea for their campaign from another game, another older game, and I'm thinking of using the same thing as that basis, because what's old is new. You scratch it down, put a new coat of paint on it, and be like, that's the thing.
while I am fully guilty of it, I will also point out that you cannot walk 3 steps through the Dungeons and Dragons channel on Twitch and not trip over somebody running Curse of Strahd.
Mm-hmm.
And they run it in every RPG edition there is.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's just certain tropes and stories and elements are just, they're fun. So you
Yeah.
keep doing them.
Right.
And I totally respect that. Speaking of fun, you
Mm.
know what's fun?
Mm.
Politics are fun.
Make my dwarf frump face. Um,
Well, and the thing is, okay, so for those not in the United States, in our Constitution, it lays out that they sure are fun, exactly, Orby. They hold out that the presidential elections are to be held on the first I believe it's in the Constitution, the first Tuesday in November is when people cast their ballots.
yeah.
And that has become the traditional day of all elections, then, with the exception of a few local ones that might be off schedule, like school boards are elected in the summer.
Yeah.
But as a general rule, like in Michigan, where we're both located, our governor is elected every 4 years on this day, except he or she's
Mm-hmm.
president, is she, or they. Things could change.
Mm-hmm.
Where was I going with this thought? Oh, yes, on the off years from the presidential election, which is every 4 years. So lots of ballots get cast, lots of voting happens. And it's always on this particular Tuesday. And so since we're recording on this Tuesday, I thought we should talk politics.
Mm-hmm.
But more in line with the idea of the kinds of things we've used in games, in stories, especially in the fantasy setting, that represents how governments are handled. Because that's the kind of thing that at a certain point you do have to have a system of government.
Yeah.
People gravitate to it naturally as well, who's in charge, who decided they were in charge, how do they stay in charge, and what's the benefit of them being in charge, which
Yeah.
also plays into the how did they get to be in charge and how do they stay in charge.
Yep. I like the movie A Knight's Tale, where they're like, "You're not a knight," and he's like, "But how did they become knights? You know, at the tip of a sword." And I'm like, yes, they did. That's how it happens. Game of Thrones, you know, your father's a killer, your brothers are killers. You know, your sons are all gonna be killers. That's the way you stay in a lord, you know.
And it's, well, Game of Thrones, I think, puts a really interesting spotlight
Mm.
on the role of government and politics, because of just the nature of it.
Oh
That
yeah.
you have to, it's the idea, for example, in the North, if you have enough of the, I think in the TV series, I haven't read the books, I only follow the
Mm.
TV shows. That idea though of everyone has a castle, they have a small group of people that are their army, and to be
Mm-hmm.
king of the North, you have to convince all these lords to
Yep.
bring their troops to you,
Yep.
which is a really like spot on feudal system. And it happened in history because it kind of worked.
Yep.
You it wasn't true democracy,
Yep.
because like peasant yeoman with spear doesn't really have a lot of say in things,
Yeah.
but you still had a certain amount of like, okay, if I want to be king, I have to convince these guys to show up, which means they kind of elect me king, because if they all kind of go, yeah, no, then I don't have an army and I can't do much.
Exactly. You have your 40 days of service. So, and then eventually they were like, you know, instead of showing up because you're like an old man, you can pay me. Or you can send someone in your stead to come and be part of the army, you know. So,
Yeah,
uh,
you had a lot of that. And I think that's kind of neat. And I think in a lot of RPGs, that's something I think we don't utilize enough, is
right.
that kind of an early proto-democratic system. We
Mhm.
tend to fall into the king is the king because the king inherited it,
Right.
and everyone follows the king because they're the king and they command the knights and the knights answer to the king. And there isn't that sense of, well, yes, but at some point the knights are all going to figure out if they don't want to work for the king anymore, they don't have to.
Right.
They can work for somebody else. Because who's going to enforce the king's edicts if not the knights?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really, you know, right on the nose that we're talking about this, because I'm about to start the new campaign with the Grognards, and the overwhelming prevalence in it is the empire has broken. Okay, and so there's these basically, you know, 6 or 7 duchies that have all kind of are now vying for, well, okay, the emperor is dead and the thing's going on. And then I slapped on top of it like a war of reformation, like the Italian wars and the 30 Years War, you know. So now there's these religious divisions amongst the people too, and so they're all trying to figure out which religion it is, and there's a plague, and it's horrible and gritty, and, you know, mud, blood, and death. So we'll see how it plays out, because what I did was I added a level of metagame where they all got to pick. So there's 3 NPC duchies, and then there's 4 PC duchies. They each got to design their own duchies. I gave them little things, and they are going to make meta decisions about their duchy, but their character in the game doesn't have to be from the duchy, doesn't have to know anything about the duchy, none of that. And then again, there's the 3 major religions on top that are also at each other's throat. So
As religions usually are.
and I'm just saying, Wow, politics. Yeah, that's where my brain's at right now. So it's really a good thing to talk about.
Well, and it's funny though too, because like with the conversion starting, I have done no macro politic planning.
Mm,
The town where the players are starting in is based off of Oxford, Michigan, which is a very small two-street downtown
mm,
exurb surrounded
yeah.
by farmland.
Ah,
Basically farmland. It's kind of proto farmland now. It's not as have it used to be very productive farmland, and now it's kind
yeah.
of shifting into subdivisions and mini estates.
Mm,
But the downtown's really cute.
yeah.
And it makes sense. I like that sense of like fantasy creatures living, having like a bakery with an apartment above it.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah. Yeah.
like that image. And then there's all kinds. But the point is, politics.
Hmm.
So far, I just have like a small elder council. Is
Yeah.
the primary government system? Is just like, hey, we get to kind of make decisions for what goes on around here because we've all been here for forever, and we all kind of come to a consensus on things, and that's how we rule.
We take
And
it unto ourselves to create it.
oh, hey Shadow, glad to have you here.
I,
Um, and so that's kind of like where that's at, and I feel like that works.
hmm.
That sense of like a little elder council just kind of gets together and says, "Hey, we need to make a decision about blah."
Yeah.
Well, what do we all think about blah? Well, yeah, we should probably deal with blah by this. We should do this. And then we're kind of goes,
If
yeah.
only there were some adventurers here.
On occasion, they do pop over to the abandoned 7-Eleven that the adventurers have have commandeered into their place because no one ever really renovated. No one ever really tried to move into it.
Yeah.
It was like a weird space. It wasn't well maintained. The roof was always at risk of falling in. It was just kind of left.
Yeah.
And then, when the gnome moved in and started building things, everyone kind of thought it'd be best just to establish a safe distance around it. And oh yeah, that's going to come up. I need to write that down. But there will
Yeah.
be like markers that
The
indicate
splash zone. Yeah.
30 and 60 feet away from the edges of the building, so that everyone just kind of knows. Like, we don't know what she's doing in there. The half orc moved in with her. We don't know what they get up to. We think it's better if we just let the kids remember they don't pass the yellow marker.
Right.
If
Right.
they pass the red rocks, that's a problem. But like I said, it's all the politics I've really thought about because I don't know to what extent my players want to get into the politics.
And that's just it. They I had this amazing this to-do list, and I'm like, ugh, I'm going through it, and the whole reason I wanted to do the campaign is because it's an empire that I've had in my games for since 92 or something.
Couple of years.
And yeah, just a couple years. But this area never really got fleshed out. So that's why I was like, you know what? This is the time. We're gonna flesh this out. I decided to do the whole war thing and the duchies and the interpolitics. Doesn't necessarily have much to do with the players. They're a mercenary band, so it's not like they belong to any one of these factions. But I wanted to set it up in a very I'm gonna Yojimbo kind of situation where it's side a fistful of dollars as a reference point. A side A will pay the mercenaries X, side B will pay them this. Are these guys the moral choice or the money choice? And have options and stuff. And then by a couple of metagame rolls, like real quick metagame rolls between weeks, I can be like, oh yeah, you catch a rumor that off in the Duchy of Zimmermensch there's something's going on. There's fighting and this and that, or off in the lands of Hakan, it's said that there's werewolves ravaging the hills, and the villagers are paying to get rid of are paying for werewolf pelts or something. It's that kind of me. I love a sandbox.
Yeah, go explore and see what you can find.
Mm-hmm.
I do admit with the other problem I bumped into is I do have a an empire
Mm.
that has been dropped in. So I do at some point have to resolve this fun little political twist. How on earth do you take a citadel that drops down in an area? So say 750,000 fantasy people,
Yeah.
and then still have the empress have power so many years later. Which the only thing I can think of, people are loyal.
Mm-hmm.
And now that you have people that can at will create fireballs,
Right.
it's kind of easy to subjugate everything that you can see. Like your community seems to have come through a convergence event pretty well. By the way, Phoenix, welcome aboard. We're talking politics in our games, not in reality, because that's messy. Finding it, train of thought, finding the train of thought, and Esteki, welcome back, and thank you for supporting the stream with that subscription for 11. Pin that. It feels easy to kind of like do you show up into a community, go, your community has rebuilt well after the recent nearby convergence event. We would like to invite you to join the Empire. And when they go, well, we're not sure we want to join the Empire, you blow up 2 buildings, and then you say, so we've noticed that you have a fine community here. Would you like to join the Empire?
Mm-hmm.
and then you kind of go from there. As a quick sidebar to our political discussion, and we have some questions from the chat to talk about here.
Oh, sure.
Azteki, I want you to know today marks the 1-year anniversary of our first D&D game on stream. I was scrolling through Facebook. It's either last night or today is the 1-year mark because it was in my memories.
Yeah.
And it's the YouTube video of session 1 of my first streamed game of D&D.
Oh, nice.
We did an adventure that's best referred to as the Valley of Plenty. It was scripted to be 6 sessions. And at some point, I will write it up and put it up on the DMs Guild.
Yeah.
I keep thinking it's just too good of an adventure to save to myself.
Right.
I've run it as a one-shot. I've run it as a full game. It has room to be expanded, but as a neat, like in session 1, this is your objective as the DM, get them from A to B. In session 2, this is your objective as DM, get them from B to C. And here's all the things you can do to get them there.
Yeah. See, and that's the kind of thing we talked about in our DMing shows and stuff is when you make your new DMG D&D for 5.5 and or 6, whatever you're going to call it, definitely teach people how to transition and how to DM, not just you'll figure it out. Here's some charts. So.
Now, the old DM guide was really just a collection of tables to roll on. And hopefully things are well with you too, Azteki. I've heard nothing negative about Nebula and Luna, so I'm assuming things are clipping along well. Because that's it's such a trip. That first 2 months, man, is such a trip. The things you will discover in that stretch of time. You're really, really tired. Dude, you are going to be really, really tired for about 18 years. Get used to it now. Now you're tired because you're up at all hours of the night because she needs a diaper change and food. Trust me, in 13 years, you're still going to be up at all hours of the night just for completely different reasons.
They're staying over at Anne's house. I don't know if I like Anne that much. She's and her parents aren't going to be there, are they? And that's it.
And then I think I saw her texting something about the boys coming by. And Okay, on to our topic though. Orby did contribute the comment that it is hard to get played politics of a game. And yes, if the DM does not set up the politics for the players to insert themselves, it can be really challenging because politics are complicated.
Yeah.
There are lots of factions to consider and lots of every political mover has an objective.
Yeah.
And the DM kind of has to write all of them.
You play to win or you die. I back in, it had to be like 91 or 92, the Gamers Guild, the summer, it was like our first summer running the Gamers Guild on campus. And, almost everybody just vanished because that's the way college was back then. Everybody went home for summer. And so the population on campus went from like 20,000 students to like 3,000 or 4,000 students. And yeah. And so I would run for like 3 months in the summer. I ran a 19-player game. And I know I've brought it up before. This one's for you, Dr. Gear. That was what he said. He's like, it's really funny because he binged us. And so he's like, you guys tell us the same stories. Yeah. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's because that's part of our experience. And if you don't binge listen to us, you might forget that we just told that story a couple episodes ago. Anyway, 19 people back in 91. And I was running a Game of Thrones kind of thing where it was like 5 or 6 people in a group and they were all factions. And so each one of them was in a different room. And I would go from one room to the other and, mix things up. And when they interacted, I would pull the other players into different rooms and stuff. It was madness, but it was very political, very backstabby thieves guilds and, wizard schools. It's a good time if you can embrace the chaos. And at the time, I could keep it all in my head. Nowadays, I'd be like, wait, what? I mean, it's been like 36 hours since we played. I can't remember.
Yeah, and that gets into that. Motivations are so critical if you're running a political game. Not D&D related, but having played in Vampire the Masquerade, which is can be a very political game, especially in live action.
Yes.
But then you get into the, like, what does your character want and what are they trying to do and who can they maneuver? Yeah. And so you create these situations where this person sets this thing up and they get this in motion and they get that in motion. And it's really hard for me to get my head around, like, what does everybody want and how do I create a story that makes that interesting?
Right. Yeah. And in the vampire games that I've been in that were political, I mean, it was knockdown, drag out, crazy, like the Toreadors are having a party. Us Bruja are showing up on motorcycles, and would like come with guns and, and they're all in suits and like, oh, yes, I'm sure. How droll.
The riffraff are here. Someone see if we have, what do they need? Light beer?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my bro showed up. He was watching live.
Slow internet. That is a problem sometimes.
Yes, it is.
Not going to lie. But the good news, we will be posting this on YouTube later and on Anchor, which means it will be on your podcast platform of choice.
Yeah.
Good for commutes and good for other travel. As we were talking about on the Discord, actually, the idea that I spend about what did I say it was? Because I estimate 4 hours a week ferrying the kids to and from dance class.
Yeah, wow.
Just driving to and from dance. That's not even counting the time I spend sitting at dance. Oh,
that's on top of. I thought that was like,
yes. No.
You would get them there and stop and then be like, okay, well, now I got an hour to sit and, No,
that's just driving. There's still another 3 hours of sitting at dance. But yes, and that has its own politics to talk about, but not today because we're talking fantasy politics. But it gets into the, I'll be honest, I really had a hard time when I played Vampire live action, getting into the politics side of it.
Oh,
it's always been hard for me to get into the, what's the point of the politic game? And I think part of that is my temperament. I don't maneuver well. Let me further explain that. We found a house we liked.
Yeah.
And we went through the house. We comped it. We looked at all the nearby properties. We're like, okay, we can afford to offer them this for the house. And the realtor calls me about 5 hours later. Oh, they've got 3 offers. So they've rejected all of the offers that have come in. They would like everyone to write their best offer and submit it by tomorrow at noon.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, good. You have our best offer. Submit it.
Uh-huh.
And he said, no, we need to write a different offer. And I said, no, we
No.
don't, because we made our best offer.
Right.
Well, no, you can do better. Like, no, we can't.
No. It's the line.
And we had like 3 cases where he's like, well, we should offer this because then we can. I'm like, no, we think the house is worth X. We are going to write an offer for X.
Yeah.
If they reject it because they want X plus Y, then we keep looking for a house. And if I were you, as my realtor, I would tell the other realtor, this guy is not doing counter offers.
Yeah.
Because that's not how he works.
Yep. So over the years, I have played a lot of diplomacy. What's the Roman one? Anyway, we used to play this Roman one that's like it's an 8-hour game, and it's faction against faction, and 3 guys go out in the hall and are like, okay, on next turn we need to you and this and that and all these, and we've played my favorite Game of Thrones. We played Game of Thrones with a couple of people who were really into Game of Thrones. And it comes down to me and Dr. Gear, like, all right, tell you what, I won't cross this river here, and you do your thing and this and that. And, me and you will beat up on them, or they'll get us, or that guy just attacked you, so I'll come to your defense. And, we just work it out kind of thing. And the guys we played with had read Game of Thrones. And me and Muddy and Dr. Gear had never read Game of Thrones. So they were like, what are you guys doing? That's not how this works. If you don't X, he'll Y and he'll win. And Muddy goes, I think Graybeard will be a good king. and it was just like a board flipping moment for the other guy.
Yes, well, okay. This is outside the RPG space, but tabletop diplomacy games really turn very heavily on every player's desire to be the winner. And the minute one player says, I'm okay with second place as long as this dude wins, the entire dynamic shifts.
Or what I see a lot of times is as long as that guy loses.
Yes, I've seen that too. And Game of Thrones, I love that as a board game because it has enough chunk to it where the diplomacy only carries you so far.
Right.
Like, good diplomacy doesn't win that game. You can get really far with good diplomacy, but it's not like the game diplomacy where it really comes down to your ability to lie to everybody about your intentions.
Yep.
Because that one, that's all you do. You just lie to everybody about your intentions the whole game.
And as the human being I am, like you were saying, I just, it's not my gig. So like when I usually go, this is what's going to happen, and I usually find a thing like we're playing Catan. I'm like, oh, I'm kind of trapped up here. Sheep and ore. That's it. That I'm going to focus on that. And then all of a sudden I've got like an army of 12 guys and I've got a library and another thing. And I win because it just, you just kind of, okay, what can I work with here? What can I do? Or Sheriff of Nottingham's one where I'm like, I'm going to look in your cart.
That's a bluff. That's a hard bluff game.
When I'm the sheriff, it's just I will look in your cart. Do you want me to not look in your cart? Well, here is my price to not look in your cart. Because they know I'm not going to bluff them. They know that I will just look.
Yep. Yep. My Kitty K loves that game because she loves accusing people of lying.
Yeah.
That's like her favorite jam. The easiest way to win against her is just never lie and just move regular goods the whole game. And it's funny how often that is successful until the meta shifts and people start moving contraband because it's not beneficial to keep opening stuff.
Right.
But that's a whole game where the meta decides it.
Yep.
We had a question a while back we've not been good about, which is unusual underground criminal organizations, which is good parts of the politics, because in any good fantasy setting, you have the government, whatever it is, the lord, the king, and then you have the other government, which is the underground shadow organizations that nobody talks about and kind of go like half sanctioned, because even the king's like, I don't want to deal with that crap.
Right. Right.
It's easier to just let them be than to go through the work of getting rid of them or clearing them out or whatever.
And that is almost any city-based campaign is about politics, because the mind flayers are under the city and they are looking to get the thralls amongst this individual or that individual, or the thieves guild has gotten sullied information on such and such. So almost any city-based game has a lot of politics to it. Hence a lot of times adventurers are nothing but assassins hired by one faction to take out another faction.
Oh yeah.
There are were-rats in the sewers. Okay. What are they doing? Being were-rats. We need them gone. Why do you need them gone?
Yeah. I would say for me, in games I've run, criminal organizations have not been terribly interesting. They've been pretty right there.
Yep.
The closest we had was for the third story arc before Curse of Strahd. The party found themselves in the city, which had no functioning government.
Yeah.
The entire city was operated by gangs who controlled territories.
Oh, yeah.
And so everything was an illegal operation because it was all gangs.
Yeah.
And so it was all like there was no peacekeeping force. There was there was taxation, but it was through the guilds. So the guilds charged a lease on your license to work.
Right.
And they used the money from that to pay their mercenaries to go collect their licensing fees. And if you didn't pay your fees, you had your tools of the trade destroyed,
right,
or confiscated. Right. So everyone played, like, that was the one thing. Everyone played along with Hightown because nobody wanted the mercenaries showing up and, wrecking your cobbler table. It's like, fine, I'll just pay a portion up to Hightown because that's what I have to do. But they didn't rule. Right. They just charged their licensing fees. And pay their mercenaries to keep Hightown safe, which was like the gang of Hightown was this mercenary company.
Yeah.
And everything else was like, hey, if you cross this street, you go from the Gang of Seven to the Banshee territory.
Yeah.
And me being an absolute jerk to my players, they wandered into town and went, oh yeah, we just came from this place where we killed the Banshee. And the guys are like, really? You like to brag about killing banshees? You know where you need to go? There's this bar down and around the corner. That's a great place to go tell your stories about killing banshees. Which is funny because I was telling Mrs. Noir about it. She's like, wait a minute, you sent the PCs into a bar controlled by a gang called the Banshees? Yes. Yes, I did.
And you're like, no, I didn't. The jerk on the street in Hightown told them where that's
where you should go. It's a great place to stay. They love to hear about that. It was, and unfortunately, I totally underestimated the PC's power level at that point. So when the Banshee gang members showed up to say, I hear you like killing members of our gang, they were absolutely no match for the PCs. The PCs just wiped the floor with them.
Super Son.
Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad.
Oh man, that's awesome. Oh, it's awesome.
How about you?
Yeah.
Interesting criminal undergrounds.
Yeah, I have done a lot of them over the years. One of my favorites was a game that I was a player in, and they played it up really well where that gang, before it got anywhere near our PCs, they had done insight checks and knowledge checks and all these things. So they had figured us all out before they tried to take us on, because they were like, that guy there can throw fire. That just, he throws a ball of fire and then everybody dies. So yeah, we should probably do something about that. Or I in one of my city games, there had to be 4 major gangs, and they went from everything from being like sailor thugs to being a group called the Gray Glove, that were all like high-end burglars who only stole magic items, and they stole, to wrap it in, they stole them mostly for like political reasons and stuff. Like, they wouldn't steal for, oh, well, the Lord is a just Lord of the city. He's, he's actually a good guy. We're not going to mess with him. But this guy over here is trying to mess with the good Lord. So we're going to steal his stuff. I love that kind of machinations.
So you take that up a whole different level. You go steal the magic ring from the good Lord.
Yeah.
And you plant it on the other guy.
Yes.
And then you call the city watch with a reliable tip of some domestic violence in the house. Yeah. So that you double whammy that guy. Because that's how you do that. I'm not bad at mucking with people in politics. I just don't. I'm not good at the long-term planning side of things.
Well, you just as advice, figure out your factions, give them motivations and goals, and then let the world do what they would do. Just like when you run a character, you just go, what would my character do? You go, what would the sharks do in this case? This sailor thugs. Well, they wouldn't, throw a ball and try to plant some subterfuge. No, they would just start a barrel on fire of whale oil on fire and shove it through your shop door.
Not exactly a subtle sort. Now, I will say, adjacent to politics, that I enjoy putting the players in the position I have to deal with is bureaucracy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to lie. Ever since I started studying business law and other related topics, the idea of contracts, torts, leases, bail laws, bailiffs versus bailees versus who technically owns stuff, becomes really fascinating in very fascinating in modern law. And I love doing that to players. I love making them navigate bureaucracy. Because any sizable society is going to develop one.
Right.
The minute we say, look, you own that property, you have created bureaucracy, you have created contracts, and you have created a need for people to track all of it.
Yeah.
Which it just grows.
Well, and it's amazing because in early medieval China, the religion was the celestial bureaucracy. and you had multiple hells and levels of things where things were built like a massive corporation, basically, in 500 or 600 BC. So yeah, again, I do enjoy bureaucracy, but usually when the bureaucracy shows up in my games, it's usually very farcical, very, very farcical. I have a hard time wheedling those daggers because I don't like it in real life.
Well, here's what I did when I ran Dragon Heist. I ran the first third of it as a mini campaign. And if you are in the Dragon Heist game that I'm running, or you don't want to be spoiled, skip ahead about 5 minutes in the podcast because I'm doing this again.
Yeah.
But so they get their tavern and it's haunted.
Yeah.
And then they have someone show up from the town who says, we understand you've acquired a new property. We're here to do an inspection to verify it's not haunted. If it's haunted, you have exactly 24 hours, you have until the next sunrise to clear it of the haunting.
Hmm.
Otherwise, the property becomes forfeit, in which case it's reclaimed by the city of Waterdeep. It is leveled and turned into a green space / community park. And if you'd like, we can cut this out now. We can sign it over here. I have with me a member of the UAW who will take over the clearing of the haunt in order to move this process forward. UAW standing for United Altar Workers.
Nice.
And it was like, it was some of the most fun I had was throwing that at players and watching them go, wait, what? Oh, hey, heebie-jeebie. And just that like sense of, oh, wait, what do you mean there are rules for this? And they said, wait, we just bought it from a guy and it was haunted when he got it.
Yeah.
And their answer was, well, clearly they didn't file the right paperwork because we have no record of the sale or inspection.
Right.
But we have a record of your purchase. We didn't purchase it. It was given to us. That doesn't, like, a sale of 0 is still a sale.
Yeah. Oh.
And it was just, it's a fun, and they don't hold back in the book. Slight spoiler.
Yeah.
You're supposed to actually rebuild it. And they're like, so you need to talk to the drywall guild. You need to talk to the plumbers guild. You need to talk to the sewer guild. You need to talk to there's just guild after guild after guild after guild who have to come in and sign off on your tavern.
Yeah. When we played it over in indoors, the all that having the workers and the guilds and stuff come in, we had one character trying to sweet talk them all the time, and another one who was secretly in love with that first character was like out to get them because they're like, you're moving in on my girl, kind of thing. And so it was crazy and just way out there. And my character became kind of best friends with the ghost, the haunting, and ended up killing another character because that character threatened to exorcise the ghost. I mean, it was an accidental death, but it was one of those where it was like,
that's our ghost.
That's my best friend. I'm going to bounce you off the floor, like Hulk and Loki.
Good murder hobo, bad murder hobo. Exactly. Totally unrelated to D&D. If you have never seen it, there is a story posted on Tumblr about a ghost who speaks to a woman by moving letters around on her fridge. And it is like, if you are not crying by the end of the story, you have no soul. And what's interesting, it's implied in the story that the woman is trans and is dealing with transition. But I'll be honest, my first time reading it, that totally went over my head. It just struck me as a woman struggling with depression.
Yeah.
And it was, and I was still bawling my eyes out by the end of the story. It is so, if you can track it down, I'll see if I can link it on Discord at some point, because it's such a powerful bit of writing. But it's really well done. And it's that idea of like the resident ghost.
Yeah.
Which is a neat trope to play with. And deal with. And again, you can't have a city with haunted houses. That's unsafe.
Right.
And yeah, and part of the point of government is to ensure the general welfare. That's really, most governments are established in the sense of, we're here to make your life better, which is why you let us do the things we do to you. I mean, really, if you boil it down, we can laugh at it, and we should, but if you boil it down, the reason in a fantasy community that they let the city watch walk around and question people is because, on the average, it's better to get stopped periodically by a watchman who's going, where are you going this hour of the night, than it is to not have them question people who are robbing houses, mugging people on the street. Like you sacrifice a little bit of that, I go where I go when I want, for not being mugged because the City Watch catches muggers.
Right. Your building doesn't have an accident because the city watch is there to go, hey, you with the barrel of whale oil, what are you doing there?
Exactly. Um, I know it's tough, and I know there's a lot of like modern politics that get wrapped up in the modern City Watch,
Mhm.
which you can like going here, know your players, and know how far you want to go with this.
Right.
Um, I will admit there are some times where I'm like, oh man, things being what they are, do I really want the City Watch to be good guys in this town? Because it might be kind of cathartic for them not to be.
Right.
And at the same time, it's like, well, on the other hand, they are just characters doing their jobs, and they all kind of signed on for whatever reason to be part of this. And,
Yeah.
they're generally outclassed by the criminal elements because, they're trying to take people alive to put on trial and put in prisons.
Mhm.
So they're kind of fighting with one sword tied behind their back.
Right. Why,
With,
why does the city watch have staves and clubs? A quarterstaff at a club, and meanwhile, I've got heavy crossbow and fireball.
yeah. Well, I'm a big believer in like level 1 and maybe even level 2 spellcasters signing on to the City Watch.
Mm-hmm.
Up to a certain point. Like you get past that, you're like, why are you chilling out with these guys? You should be out doing your thing with everybody else. You should not be, go adventure if you're that powerful. Don't hang out here. But you only gotta be level 2 to cast Hold Person?
Right. Shield and counterspell. Those are ones that like if I have so I have a massive city that is a wizardarchy, and they have all this wizard technology. I mean, it is nothing to see people fly by on a magic carpet or a broom in this city because it's all wizards. Like the whole place is magic. And so their city watch is basically, 4 guys with sticks and clubs and one guy who is wizard. And his job usually is to go pyrotechnics in the sky, as soon as the situation becomes dire, and then said whirling, zipping people can either teleport in and be like, what are you doing? And they're like, what? Poof, you're teleported. As a matter of fact, this is a scene that if Muddy listens to this, he'll remember. Him and another character were caught fighting in the streets by the Wizards Council, and they had to go on trial before the Wizards. And the Wizards I had it all like a darkened, weird room with funky lights and all this. And they would ask a question, and then they would say, touch the orb. And there was just like a floating like glow ball, thing. And the characters would touch it. And I'd be like, are you telling the truth? And they'd be like, no, fire damage, lightning damage, type stuff. So yeah, you with government, it all rolls down. Your bureaucracy is going to be a lot like whatever basis of government you have.
Mm-hmm.
So feel free to be funky about it. A beholder, is the actual ruler of the town, but nobody knows that. They think it's a council of wizards that live at the top of the tower. There's a shining tower that, glows and is magical and all this, but it's actually a beholder up there who's like, everybody's like, oh, a beholder's evil and this and that. Sure. But, making lots of money and making everything so good around you that you are all powerful and everybody does what you say because, like, holy crap, our lives are good here. Have you seen beyond the walls?
How many people have broken an ankle walking down the streets? These are actually maintained.
Mm-hmm.
People get paid to replace the cobblestones when they shift.
Yeah. So, and somebody sweeps up the horse dung.
He gets paid really well for it because it's kind of a crappy job.
He has, he has health care and dental. Oh, man. Paid leave. Um,
His wife had their 14th child, and he was off for 2 weeks and got paid for the time. Like,
yes.
who does that?
Meanwhile, there's like eight tentacled monster sitting in this tower, like on piles and piles of gold, because everybody wants to live here and everybody wants to be good because, well, you know.
Well, and that's okay. So we've talked about alignment before,
Mm-hmm.
but that's one of the weird quirks to lawful evil.
Mm-hmm.
And people, I've said this before. I think we're talking about on Discord. We're talking about chaotic good versus lawful good, and
Mm-hmm.
lawful good doesn't mean lawful stupid. It means you like your rules and you like doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think most people fall into the lawful good category. Like we kind of like a little bit of predictability in our lives,
Yep.
and we like to make sure the world is a generally positive, supportive place.
Yep.
Chaotic good's like, well, are they rules or are they guidelines? And that's a tough life to lead in a lawful society.
Yes.
And chaotic societies have can have lots of challenges
Right.
because of that whole unpredictability that comes with being chaotic.
Again, you've got the chaotic good character who's like, well, that family's starving. That windowsill has 3 pies on it.
Yep.
You know,
Well,
I'm going to strive for this inequality balanced now.
yeah. The great irony of it is you can be a dyed-in-the-wool revolutionary. We are all for freedom for all people.
Mm-hmm.
And then you move into a commune
Mm.
and suddenly you are crazy lawful. Because like communes don't work without rules. I mean, if I just made a pizza, there better
Yeah.
be a piece for me when I pull it out of the, after it cools when I pull it out of the oven. Like no, that's the rule. I made the damn pizza. I get half of it.
Yeah.
You know, if you want more pizza, make your own pizza. And so that being said, it's really easy to slide into that. Like a lawful evil character can be a very good ruler
Mm.
in a fantasy setting because it's like there's a watch, people don't get robbed, people pay taxes. There's some people that don't have it as well as maybe they should, but the rules are there to help maintain order.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we don't look too closely at how much gold ends up in the wizard tower. You know, it's like, well, it makes sense to pay taxes because, you know, it's not that bad.
Yeah. So a lawful good society versus necessarily a lawful evil society, it would be like in the lawful good society, there isn't debtor's jail. I'm sorry, you took, things didn't work out for you. What can we do to make it right? Let's work together to make this happen. Lawful evil, you took the risk. You shouldn't have done the crime if you didn't want to do the time. Debtor's prison.
Yep.
You get to break rocks.
Chaotic good is traffic laws. It's kind of okay to go faster than the speed limits if nobody gets hurt. Well, that's the problem with the thing about speed limits, if you believe them, is that statistically somebody will get hurt if you go faster than that. The probability of injury increases if you go past that speed. That's assuming traffic laws are written in a way. Chaotic evil as traffic laws is stop signs are suggestions. It's interesting though.
It wouldn't chaotic evil be stop signs or opportunities?
It's interesting though too. It's like you don't know if you have libertarian leanings until you pull up to a red light in the middle of the night with no other traffic and find yourself going, F this, I'm going through. and it's that like you know you're lawful good people, and most people are, because they will sit at that light until it turns green when there's nobody around, but there's a red light and I need to wait till it turns green.
Yeah. Oh. I recently took there's a chart, the XY, 9 bar alignment chart. I took it and I'm like, of course I'm gonna be chaotic good because that's who I am. And I ended up in the what was it? Neutral good.
Yep.
I ended up in the neutral good. I was like, huh, all right. I
Yep.
I'm okay with that, I guess. Hmm. I think of myself as a rebel, but
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 not
again,
really.
but again, I would only break the rules to save someone else.
Yep.
It would have to be that extreme of a situation
Hmm.
before I go out of my way to.
Lawful characters like the fact that the world is a little predictable.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you look over history, societies were created as they were to address unpredictability. To
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, look, we're going to pool our food together because you might have a lousy crop this year and I might have a bumper crop and we don't want you to starve.
All right.
So we're going to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that kind of makes some sense.
Yeah.
I always joked, this is my favorite way of doing the various lawfuls, is
Mm-hmm.
you have 3 adventurers who agree to rid a town of a horrible plague upon it.
Mm.
And they all agree they will do this. They all swear an oath.
Mm.
And then they find out the plague is caused by this cursed child.
Mm.
The lawful good character says, well, we must further our quest to find the source of the girl's curse.
Mm.
The lawful evil character, or lawful neutral character says, well, if we kill the girl, we fulfilled our oath.
Mm.
Lawful evil says, we should get her whole family just to be safe.
Ouch. Ouch. Yeah, that's yeah. That leads down a weird road to for like a lot of characters have that I'm an orphan. So that the DM can never use a family member or anyone against me. And you're like, I'm burning the orphanage as the DM. I hated the orphanage. The orphanage is now taking in all the children, and then they're like, burn the orphanage.
Well, and
So,
it's like that's as a sidebar, that's a sign of someone who's been used and abused too many times and hasn't had good conversations with their DMs. I even made that very clear in my table rules for the Convergence, because the Convergence has kind of like a more open background on it. But I think I may have hinted at it with my Dragon Heist group, which is you are allowed to tell me about NPC fates ahead of time.
yeah.
Like if we have a role play going and you're getting into this NPC and they're kind of cool and you're like, dude, I like this person. I want to do more stories with them. Please don't abuse them.
Right.
Like, okay, that's fine. That's if me kidnapping and potentially murdering this NPC would ruin your fun at the table,
Yeah.
that's off the table.
Yeah. In Dragon Heist, LB did that with Indoor. Was like this NPC is my sister, and they have plot armor.
Yep.
So and again, that's totally fair to be like that. The other thing too is I mean, how fun is it when the party obviously beloves an NPC, and then as just a human being, you're like, I have to threaten.
Oh yeah. Yeah. How much AC does plot armor add? Well, it adds enough to make sure your players are still having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird. You can actually, like, if you talk to the players ahead of time to get some buy-in, you can with the right groups, you can actually get the NPC they don't want to have hurt in harm's way.
Right.
Because the tension of how are we going to get them? We know this NPC will survive.
Right.
We know they are not going to fall into the lava.
Mm-hmm.
But a good group of players will play stupid.
Right. Right.
They will see it's their job to figure out how to tell a story to keep that NPC from falling into the lava, because that's what makes the story work.
In that it works beautiful specifically in superhero games, because I mean, Robin, boy hostage, if Lois Lane just was like dead, it would be like Superman and be like, okay, now I hate, and I'm just gonna kill the world. Everybody take some laser eyes,
We've seen that on Amazon. It's called The Boys.
Yes, exactly
Not
it.
a fun show.
Yeah. Or yeah, definite warning.
Yeah.
For,
By the way, if you are under the age of 18, you probably should not watch that. Actually, even if you're over 18, I'd still caution, like, this is what happens when you take like Michael Bay and
Mhm.
let him do a superhero movie and then some. I understand it's very true to the source material.
It really is, except the dog can talk, and the dog did the oh, what's his name? The main character. Anyway, his dog can talk, and his dog is nuts and stuff.
Ah,
And it is much worse
oh God.
in than
That's a
the
scary thought.
actual. They pulled it back for. I mean, they still hit the beats, but they pulled back some of the peripheral. There was an age where comic books were pushing lines and being written for adults.
Well, and it's
And
funny,
so,
speaking of that age, because I find myself often quoting the movie Heavy Metal,
yeah.
which is also from that like early age of we're going to make cartoons for grown-ups.
Mhm.
And one of my favorite lines is, "Don't worry, Charlie, I got an angle."
Yeah.
And it's a total takeoff from that movie. It makes no sense out of like the whole Charlie bit makes no sense unless
Mhm.
you've seen it. But it is in that category of just really fun. Like
Yeah.
that's my go-to line of, "Don't worry, it's all gonna work out," which I
I'm not
really
gonna
shouldn't do.
I'm not gonna walk around this place. Wow, I look great. I'm not gonna walk around this place with my dork hanging out. He puts on a loincloth, and that heavy metal is amazing. Real since we're way off in the weeds at this point.
Which is good because we're getting close to the end of the
Okay,
show.
good.
Have you known when I was 14? I think I was 14 when I watched it too.
Ralph Bakshi did a show, an animated movie called Wizards.
Yes, he did.
If you have never seen Wizards, it is it, it is eye-opening. I recommended it, indoor watched it, and was like, I'm like, yeah, because you're like that. When I started playing D&D, there was no, this is how you play D&D. It was sci-fi and fantasy and wizards and okay, whatever, let's do it. I mean, sure, you guys have a horseless carriage that has a wizard painted on the side. Sure, why not? Why wouldn't you? So wizards is like that, and I still want to do spoilers, but watch it, you'll adore it, or you'll go, why did Graybeard send me to this piece of garbage?
A lot of a lot of things produced in the 70s and 80s fit that bill.
Yeah.
Somebody asked on Twitter what everyone's favorite Tim Curry movie was and why is it all of them. And the movie I popped in is one of my favorite movies that has Tim Curry is a little to me gem called Oscar.
Oh, I thought I knew which one you were going to say, but
and it's
okay.
it's based off a French play, I understand. But the gist of it is Sylvester Stallone plays a mobster who promises his father that he will go straight and give up crime. And the whole movie then takes place over the first day he tries to be honest.
Nice.
And it's a classical farce.
Yeah.
Of mistaken identities. There's like 3 different matching handbags. There's the in and out of the doors things. Like one goes out, one goes in. Tim Curry plays an elocution teacher that Stallone's character has hired to make him sound less like a gangster and more like a banker.
Yep.
And it's just and Tim Curry he always puts everything out there. He never leaves anything behind when he gets into a part.
Yep.
So yeah, Orby, thank you for sharing that you've seen it, because it is a movie that not a lot of people have heard of.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of Stallone's best acted movies.
Well, until you said Stallone and gangster, I was like, okay, I don't know this. Tim Curry? Really?
No,
Tim
he's
Curry?
in it.
But then once you started explaining, I'm like, oh my God. Yeah.
What did you think I was going to say?
I thought you were going to mention Legend because,
Ah.
it's Tim Curry as the freaking devil. And when you look, you're like, Tim Curry's like, I don't know if it's a rubber suit or whatever, but he's ripped. He's like ripped and he's the devil. And you're like, oh, yeah, he's just so amazing and so flexible. And it's not that movie. It doesn't pull back. He is, like you said, he is 100% whatever the character is. That's who he's going to
Maybe
be.
we should make a whole topic of just reviewing Tim Curry movies because I'm like, if you watch Muppet Treasure Island, let's be honest, he's acting alongside Muppets and you believe every second of it.
Jack Sparrow, eat your heart out.
The Hunt for Red October.
Yep.
It's a minor part, but it's like
Mhm.
he's there the whole way through.
Yeah.
And then Criminal Minds. Criminal Minds got him for a two-parter
Yeah.
as the villain.
I don't remember it. It's a
And
series though. That's
the
a TV
series
show.
Criminal Minds. Yeah,
Okay,
he was on.
okay.
He was on. It was a TV. Right now. Mrs. Noir and I are binging
Yeah.
Criminal Minds as our. We need to watch some TV. Well,
Yeah.
that's mystery of the week.
Right.
But he was on a two-parter
Yeah.
as the bad guy. And that is not the thing about Criminal Minds. That's not a spoiler. That's why we
Yeah.
like it so much. It's more about like, can we figure out what their motivation is for everything? Because like usual CSI episodes, it's here's an innocuous NPC that you meet that you will have an interaction with in the first 5 minutes, and in the last 5 minutes find out they're the killer.
Yeah.
Because that's like every episode follows that. Criminal Minds does not, which is why we like it.
Nice.
We are so off politics. We probably
Yeah.
should consider this our cue to go home.
Yeah.
Let the girls clean up at the bar, settle up the tab and everything. We're going to meet again in 2 weeks. Maybe we'll talk lore. Maybe we'll talk Tim Curry movies.
Yeah.
Because we could probably do that for an hour if we wanted to. But we'll just have to talk some D&D at the front and the back end so we can keep the D&D label on us.
All right.
What have you got coming up in the next couple of weeks, D&D or otherwise?
So our Monster Noir on Thursday nights is down to we're on hiatus. We had the students who are heading to finals and whatnot, and there's a whole ton of stuff going on there. So all I really have is Sunday, where I'm playing Wilder Myth, and I'm just gonna say Wilder Myth allows me to play with all my toys and have a good time with that. And I'm just gonna say I'm so excited because I was, as far as I can find, the first streamer that the official Wilder Myth Twitter promoted and stuff. And so now almost any tweet or whatever that I put out that has Wilder Myth in it, they just move it along. And
Nice.
so it's really gratifying to be like, I love your game, and you obviously are like, yeah, we love our game too,
This is a fanboy. We have got
Yeah.
ourselves a fan. How is
Yeah.
Lantern doing in that game?
Oh, so it's great because you had you were lurking or whatever, you had to walk away. So we just left you as is. You like your look and everything. So you've got the short hair. You're the kind of not snarky girl, but
I'll take it.
yeah, you're kind of the magic pixie girl kind of thing going on with that. So, but you got the red hair and I nearly had a TPK. It was really fudged up. I was scared. But anyway, Wilder Myth's pretty much the only thing I'm doing on the air streaming where you can see me, that and our wonderful podcast. And I'll definitely let you know if I'm doing anything else. But off screen, I'm about to, with the group I play with that's run by a sound design guy and everything, we're about to do a 6-part Call of Cthulhu game. Where
Nice.
we're college students, which for most of them, they are college students. So that's pretty cool. And then of course, me and the Grognards are about to embark on this mercenary socio-political religious war campaign on Saturday nights. So I'm sure you'll
Nice.
hear something about that.
Yeah, indeed, indeed, indeed. That sounds like a lot of fun. And I will
Mm-hmm.
say with Wildermyth, I played it yesterday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I tweeted that I was, and then Wildermyth
Mm-hmm.
asked me how the game went on Twitter,
Nice.
and
Yeah.
and my response is it's not as brutal as XCOM,
Mm-hmm.
but it hits you in the feels because I had a main character. I one of my characters die
Mm-hmm.
at the end of chapter one, and it's not like people die in XCOM. You're like, oh crap, man,
Mm-hmm.
we might not beat this mission because we're down a person, and that
Yeah.
hits you in the feels. And like
Yeah.
this one, they give you like last words,
Oh yeah. It's oh.
and it's
Oh.
like, oh crap, and you have to pick their last words because there are game benefits based on which way you
Mm-hmm.
go, and then there's like aftermath of it where it's like, okay, do we build a memorial? Do we take them home and bury them at the
Oh yeah.
hometown?
You've had a funeral and stuff then obviously.
I've not had a funeral because we haven't built the memorial yet.
Oh, okay, okay,
I
okay,
think
good,
we
good.
have to go build the memorial, or it happened between chapters
Yeah,
because time
yeah,
advanced, and now the memorial is just there. So I got spared the funeral so
right.
far.
Well, and what's funny is I have stuck with my I will not play Wilder Myth except for Sunday mornings, which is just brutal because there's people who are like, they see me play, they start playing it, and by
And
the
they're ahead
next
of you
Sunday,
now.
yeah, by the next Sunday, they're like, I just finished book 4, and she's like, yeah, I get jealous, but I'm sticking to my guns. Yeah, and then they once the floodgate opened with like them repeating and retweeting my stuff, I just see it now. They've become so much more interactive with their player base, and I'm like, you guys should. This stuff is amazing. I've got a hype hype mystic is a bubblegum purple skinned sorceress who has raven wings, a scorpion tail, and she radiates damage. Where are you going to play that?
It is. It is a really good game.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. It was hard for me this morning because I streamed again today, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, do I want to play XCOM or do I want to play more Wildermyth? And I win XCOM partially because I left off on stream in the middle of a mission, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I just need to finish this mission.
Yeah.
Like I hate having that hanging over my head, and then once I was in it, I'm like, I'm just gonna keep going.
Yeah.
I'm that one though. I'm not limiting only to on stream, partially because the first like 3 hours
Mm-hmm.
is boring and brutal. Because it
Mm-hmm.
is, you're just kind of like getting your base started, and you're doing
Right.
a lot of like grunt missions. Like the game doesn't really that game. You need some momentum
Yeah.
to get some good decision points in it. Whereas Crimson, good to see you here. Glad you're popping in for a little bit. Yeah, we've the schedule wise. I guess this is a good place to talk about as we wrap
Oh
up.
yeah, yeah.
Our schedule has shifted a little bit because of my work situation, being back at work full time with the kids being busy. We are down to every other Tuesday. Thereabouts. If it looks like I have to cancel because of a dentist or a doctor's appointment, we'll move forward or backwards. So you'll
Mm-hmm.
might get back to back weeks. But it was just something that something had to give.
Yeah.
So we do this every other week. Then I've got tomorrow night. I've got parent teacher conferences, so there's no convergence, which makes me sad. But you can watch episode 1 on YouTube, which is fun. And then Sunday night we officially start Dragon Heist.
Oh.
We missed a week. We had our session 0. We took Halloween off because one of the players had planned to go to a party. Nothing, I respect that. So we're going to be up and running. So we're starting Dragon Heist on
Yeah.
Sunday, and then on the following Wednesday we're back to Convergence again. So that's clipping along. It's a lot of fun. In fact, as soon as I sign off, I have to email the guy who's one of the people who's making maps for me.
Oh goodness.
Because I'm
Awesome.
getting maps
Awesome.
made for the major zones,
Right.
which is fun because it's like it half writes it for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, here's the map. I could put this here, and I can put this here, and this encounter goes here.
Oh,
It makes the playing so much a busy week. It's a typical week.
yeah. Yeah.
I've been trying to. When the school year started, I was keeping my 2 stream D&D games per week.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That worked out okay. And it's actually been a weird month because
Mm-hmm.
October has been a very quiet month for me.
Oh.
relatively speaking. And I'm kind of hoping to get some momentum again going into the holidays
Yeah.
and gearing up for my retirement.
Yeah. Uh, the yeah. So I moving into different phases and stuff like that. You've got to strive for that stream life balance until you can get to that retirement moment, man.
I
So
know.
yeah.
Well, and
So
here's how I judge my weeks, and this will be my wrap up. My
mm,
days is I have days that are I'm going to teach until June, and then I
mhm.
have days that are I'm teaching until March, but I'll let everybody know well in advance that I'm retiring in March.
Yeah.
And then I have days that are I'm retiring in March, and I ain't telling nobody until March. Because it's like, you know what, I've had it. Screw the world. I'm just
Yeah.
not going to show up one day. And I'll just file my paperwork. Are you into cinematic style games like Detroit Become Human and Until Dawn?
Mm.
I can be, and that's a longer question than we have time for as we're
Yeah.
winding down.
Yeah.
Gray,
Yeah.
how about you? Are you into
Definitely.
those?
So it's yeah. I'm gonna say I kind of love that kind of game. I have issues with Vertigo, so some of them are hard to play, but I those are the games sometimes I like to watch other people play, and that becomes really great. I do have a thought for the day at the end, so when we get there, hit me up with that opportunity. But yeah, again, definitely bring that back. We will try to pin it and kind of maybe talk about it next time, or
Yeah,
in the future.
that would be a
You
good topic to kick around.
you can always email us, right?
You can
With
send
that
email
topic.
to oldtimertavern@gmail.com. You can also join our Discord, which I do not have a hot link for at the moment. Let me see. I think it's either social or socials. There it is.
Hey.
To get us know there. Yeah, we will definitely talk about that. And then very quickly, I'm using a Yeti Blue Nano. Great.
Hmm.
What's your mic?
I'm using the bigger Yeti.
Full size Yeti.
Yeah, it's been my mic for 7 years now. So
Cool beans.
no.
So thank you for downloading this podcast on whatever platform you use. If you did download it and you have not reviewed it, please consider taking 5 minutes. Leave us a review on that platform. It helps other people find our content, find some of the interesting conversations we've had, lets them binge it and see that we really do recycle stories from time to time, but you really won't notice unless you listen to all of the episodes back to back. I would also like again to thank one of our sponsors, Sweet Steam of sweetsteam.com. If you use the code Steam Noir while you're there, you can get a steampunk themed chocolate for 5% off your whole order. They've got amazing stuff. They've got a Hinden it's a Hindenburg themed chocolate, which has like a jalapeno taste to it.
Oh, the humanity.
They also have a chocolate, which is dark chocolate with sea salt and caramel in it. Yeah, the sea salt's I think the real piece de resistance in that, and all kinds of other fun stuff. And then thank you for coming by, Graybeard. Do you have a final thought for our podcast listeners?
I wore my shirt. Vote zombie, brain power. So that was my thought for this week.
I will second that by saying one of these years I will invest in yard signs that say, "Vote Cthulhu. Never settle for a lesser evil."
Well, exactly.
If you're still with us, it means you're here as part of the live stream, and we're going to send you somewhere because sharing is caring. And I miss opportunities to share my community with some of the amazing people I've gotten to know since I've gotten into streaming. And in this particular instance, that is going to be none other than the amazing Kraken Inferno, who is up and streaming today. He's playing his way through Far Cry 6. He is an amazing content creator. It's always fun to raid over to him because you will always have a good time. Dude, when did you get the glasses?
I got those for a cyberpunk game I was in, but Kraken's got
Oh yeah,
pretty the same ones. So that's why I was like, that's my official Kraken Inferno.
you're cracking in front of glasses. You have to have a prop for everything.
I try.
That's the way you roll, man. He's a great content creator. I consider him a mentor of like just trying to be welcoming and supportive, not just of my own community, but of the stream community at large. He's one of the few people I know who has been able to stride that line between building up everybody else while acknowledging that streaming is still kind of competitive. There are only
Mm,
X eyeballs out there. And
yeah.
he's just a great guy that's always connecting up people that should be connected. So have a great time when you chill out with him. Thank you for coming by Happy Hour. We're gonna settle our tab, hop in the cars, get back to the missuses, and enjoy our evening. That's okay. It'll save on Twitch, and you can always check us out tomorrow on YouTube. I will hopefully have Photoshop so I can put the thumbnails and everything up. Y'all have a good night. Wherever you are, please stay safe.